All right, y'all, we're going to do another comparing functions lesson. This time it's going to be a little more explicit with answering questions that you'll kind of see, all right? So when comparing functions, they're always going to ask you a question. And so it'll either ask you to compare the slope or the y-intercept. Sometimes they won't be explicit with it, right? So here are some comparison words to know you're looking for slope. So we've written some of these down before, but rate of change, slope, not slope, per, each, every, things like that. Y-intercept keywords, maybe starting, initial, fee, base. Different things like that, all right? So we're going to jump right into it, comparing slope example problems. So here's a reminder, when comparing slopes, you compare the absolute value, all right? Absolute value just means you assume it's positive. So if you're comparing -2 to 1 and I ask you which slope is bigger, you're going to look at it as if you're comparing 2 and 1, all right? So here's example 1. 3 linear functions are represented below in the graph and table and equation. Which has the greater rate of change? So it says rate of change, so I know I'm going to have to compare the slope. So I have to find the slope from the graph, the table, and the equation. Equation is the easiest. So my slope is always in front of x. It's the m, right? So this slope, which I'm going to write as m, is -7. This slope I can find by putting in the table, right? So I go to stat, edit, and I have to clear this out. So I'm going to up, clear, go back down, up, clear, go back down. All right, so L1, I'm going to input my x values. -1, 3, 8. For L2, my y values. -2, 2, 7. Sorry. All right, then I go to stat, calc, go to number 4, so click 4, and keep clicking enter until I get something that looks like this. So remember, the A is the slope, B is the y-intercept. So this slope for this table is 1, according to this. So m equals 1. Now to find slope from a graph, I have to choose 2 points, right? So let's say I choose this point here, and I got to choose another point on the corner. This point here, remember we used to do this a while back. I create my slope triangle. So 1, 2, 3. My rise is 3. My run is 2. So the slope is 3 over 2. And it's going down, so it's negative. And then I'm going to put that in decimal format because it's easier to compare. So 3 over 2 is 1.5. So my m for this graph is 1.5, -1.5. So when I'm comparing to see which one is the biggest, I'm going to look at them as if it's all positive. So I'm going to look at this as if it's 1.5, this is 1, and this is 7. So this has the greater rate of change. So I'm going to circle it. All right, because even though it's negative, it's still moving faster. The rate of change is faster. So let's look at second question. Example number 2. So the table below represents function 1. The equation y equals 2x plus 5 represents function 2. Which statement below is true? So we have A, B, C, and D. The slope of function 1 is greater by 1. So I got to figure this out. I got to figure out the slope of the equation in the table. Slope of the equation is easy, right? It's just 2, whatever's in front of the x. So m equals 2 for that. Now I got to figure it out for the table. So I go back to my calculator, stat, edit, clear out what I already have. And then I'm just going to put the first 2 because all I really need is 2 points. So -2 and 2 as my first 2 x's, 1 and 5 as my first 2 y's. Go stat, calc, hit number 4, calculate. So my slope for that is 1. So m equals 1. So function 2 has a slope of 2. Function 1 has a slope of 1. So the first A and B say the slope of function 1 is greater by 1. That's not true. The slope of function 2 is greater by 1. Function 2 has a slope of 2 and function 1 has a slope of 1, so it is greater by 1. So that would be my answer choice. All right. Let's look at example number 3. So a pizza restaurant near a college charges a base price of $4.25 plus $3.25 for each topping. A pizza restaurant in a mall uses a table below to calculate the price of the same pizza. Which pizza charges less per topping? So this says per, so I'm comparing slope and not y-intercept, right? So a pizza restaurant near a college charges a base price of $4.25 plus $3.25 for each topping. So we're going to have pizza at the college and pizza at the mall. So pizza at the college is easy, right? So a pizza restaurant near college charges base price of $4.20 plus $3.25 for each topping. It tells us how much it costs for each topping. So that's $3.25. For the mall, I got to use my table again. So I go to my calculator, stat, edit, clear out what I have, put the first two in. All I need is the first two to actually get an answer. 1350, 20.50. Go back to stat, calc, number 4, and keep clicking enter until I get something. So this charges $3.20. So the mall charges $3.50, right? Because we're comparing slope. So which pizza place charges less? The college. Cool. So that was with comparing slope. So now we're going to compare y-intercepts. And so I'm going so fast, my battery's about to die, and I'm trying to get this done. So let's compare y-intercepts. So example number 1, John had $300 in his account last year and deposited $100 each month to save up for a trip. This is shown in the graph below. Michaela's savings each month is shown in the table. So this is John and that's Michaela. Who started out with more money in their savings? This word started out tells us we are comparing the y-intercept, the B, right? So I'm going to put John and Michaela right here. So it said John, if I look at his graph, the starting point is 300, right? That's the y-intercept. Michaela, we got to figure out her y-intercept, and we got to figure that out using the table. So go back to our table, click stat, edit, clear out what you have, and type in the first two. You only need the first two. So 4 and 6, and then for savings, 710 and 890. Right? Go to stat, calc, hit number 4, click enter 3 times. 90 and 350. Which one are we using? We're using the y-intercept, so we need B. So Michaela started out with 350. So Michaela started out with the most money in her savings. Example number 2. Jack's taxi service charges a flat rate of $3, flat rate, that tells us the y-intercept, and $2 per mile driven. The rates for Taylor's taxi service are shown in the table below. Who charges a lower flat rate and by how much? So we got to do 2 things. See who charges the lowest and by how much lower. So we have 2. We have Jack and we have Taylor. Jack, we know its flat rate is $3. We got to figure out Taylor's. Put it in the calculator. Stat, enter for edit, clear out what you already have. Only use the first 2 because all you need is 2. So some of my x values, I'm going to use 2 and 5. Y values 8 and 17. Those are the first 2. Click stat, go to calc, hit number 4, and keep clicking enter until you get something. Remember, we're comparing the y-intercepts here, so I have to look at B. B is 2. So Taylor charges a $2 flat rate. So Taylor is lower by $1, right? Because 3 minus 2 is 1. It's $1 cheaper. Lower by $1. Last question. Example number 3, very explicit. 2 functions are shown below. Which has a greater y-intercept and by how much? So, for this graph, the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis, right? It crosses right here. So this y-intercept, the B, is -1. This y-intercept, you would think I have to use the table, but remember the y-intercept is where x equals 0. X is 0 here, so I know the y-intercept here is -2. So which one has the greater one? The graph. And we don't have to use absolute value for y-intercept, just for rate of change. Okay? So that's it. So you got it? Good.